everyone. My name is Feuchter, and this is All In. Are you the kind of gamer that longs for the golden days of turn-based JRPGs? Do you enjoy the genre's current era but still feel like some of that magic is missing? If you're anything like me, you grew up playing games like the old-school Final Fantasies, Golden Sun, Pokemon, and Paper Mario. These are all fantastic games that many of us truly adore and continue to replay, not just for the nostalgia or the storytelling, but because they have a kind of charm that the current era JRPGs kind of lack. Don't get me wrong, I still love the JRPGs we get today. My personal favorite series is the Tales of games. Still, one thing I can't help but miss is the pacing of turn-based battle systems. That is one reason why I'm excited for the upcoming release of Bravely Default 2 for the Nintendo Switch. What is Bravely Default, you ask? Bravely Default was published by Square Enix and developed by Silicon Studios and producer Asano Tomoya for the Nintendo 3DS back in September 2011. Asano set out to originally produce the title as a sequel to Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light, but ultimately he decided he wanted to make something new with it instead, wanting to bring together what he considered the three core elements of RPGs: battles, growth, and connection. It featured a story focused on four main characters set in the fictional world of Luxembourg as they fight to stop the apocalypse. The team of heroes and their fairy companion band together to restore the world's crystals after a cataclysmic event shrouds them all in darkness. Eventually, they come to restore the elemental crystals and even defeat a man by the name of Bravely. That's right, puns. Only to find out things are not as they seem. Someone in their party ends up betraying them, revealing that they are the minion of the demon Ouroboros, who is the true mastermind trying to conquer the celestial realm. The canon story follows this route, but you can change the course of events by discovering the enemy's true plan and derailing it. The gameplay was for the most part what you would come to expect from your traditional JRPG. A sprawling overworld filled with random enemy encounters, towns and NPCs to do business with, diverse hero classes, unique dialogue events between the characters, you know, the basics. They even added a day and night cycle to change up random encounters on the overworld. Asano himself stated that these similarities were intentional. He wanted fans of Final Fantasy to be able to enter his world with a sense of comfortable familiarity. He would go on to describe the game as a JRPG with American content thrown in, since both the story and gameplay were so heavily influenced by Western gaming and TV. The game also included some social aspects. Players could partake in an optional side mission to restore one of the towns destroyed very early on in the game. Through Street Pass, players could invite their friends to become villagers and use their efforts to rebuild. Each project would take different amounts of time to complete, earning the players some sweet loot along the way. The more people you had, the faster it went. Some even took weeks. Secret bosses would also appear in the region, netting you some special rewards should you take them down, and who doesn't love that? But the true gem of Bravely Default was the battle system. Bravely Default managed to introduce a whole new series of mechanics to the traditional turn-based formula. In battle, the player and enemies would each take turns performing an action or choose to escape the fight. Pretty typical stuff, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. The development team decided to add two new options to the mix: Brave and Default. See what they did there? Brave points determine the number of actions a character or enemy could take within a turn, along with what abilities could be used. Party members could whittle down BP into negative numbers, enabling up to 4 actions within a single turn. However, they would then have to wait for the BP counter to reach 0 before they could act again, naturally recovering once per turn. The other option meant any party member could default, reducing the amount of damage taken from enemy attacks while storing up BP. Why make it so complicated? Well, designer Kensuke Nakahara wanted something more exciting than the traditional turn-based format for players. He was also annoyed that the majority of bosses in both the Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy franchises got 2 or more actions per turn, while player characters only got 1 each. After some consideration, he decided on a system where players could bank points for later use by not taking actions, or create loan points to act multiple times in one turn. Naturally, choosing whether to be brave or go default meant you needed to strategize very carefully, adding an extra layer of difficulty and thought to each move the player made. The game came as a surprise hit to Square Enix, who did not expect it to do well at all in Western markets. Selling more than 1 million copies in 2 years, it became so difficult to find in stores that even pre-owned copies became scarce. The game earned more than a few awards, including a consumer award from Dengeki Online, beating out Persona 4 Golden and Rune Factory 4. Sadly, the development team hit a a snag with the direct sequel, Bravely Second Endlayer. While this entry was successful in maintaining the gameplay of the original, it was also criticized for the story and lack of diversity from Bravely Default. Although new features were added to build on the first game, the sales just weren't there. The general feeling was it felt more like an expansion to the first game rather than a sequel. Asano and his team took a step back and changed direction from their planned third entry to the franchise, which then transformed into 2018's wildly successful Octopath Traveler. Thanks to its success, Asano was again inspired to try his hand at that third installment to the Bravely family. Cut to the Game Awards 2019 and we're all treated to the surprise announcement that Bravely Default 2 was in development exclusively for the Nintendo Switch. Bravely Default 2 is so named because Asano felt that with the critical and commercial underperformance of Bravely Second and failure to live up to the expectations of the fan base, it became difficult for the team to continue on with the series. Instead, they've altered course by creating a new game in the series set in a brand new world separate from the characters and story of the previous titles. Taking place on a continent named Excellent, the game will follow four main characters: a young sailor named Seth, a refugee princess named Gloria, a traveling scholar named Elvis, and a mercenary named Adele. Little is currently known about the story, but back in March 2020, a demo was released on the Nintendo eShop for fans to play and once again provide feedback on, which the developer behind Bravely Default 2, Clay Techworks, is using to ensure we get a product just as good, if not better than, the original game. Personally, I am extremely excited to get my hands on this game and discover what stories will unfold. Again, if you're anything like me, you probably spent hours upon hours playing the first game and have been dying to sink your teeth into another one just like it. I know it's going to be one that I'll enjoy because playing Bravely Default reminded me why I fell in love with Square Enix and JRPGs in the first place. Luckily, we won't have to wait long because Bravely Default 2 is planned for a global release on February 26, 2021. Be sure to get your copy pre-ordered at GameStop.com or speak to a guest advisor at your local GameStop store. So what about this game has you excited to play it? What are you hoping to discover in the world of Bravely Default 2? Be sure to let us know. If you like what you saw here and want to see more, you can find more videos like this on the GameStop YouTube channel. Just look for All In. And if you want to see more from me, you can find me on Twitter at Lord Azria. You can also find me streaming retro games on Twitch with my co-host Kiba Walker over at twitch.tv/the_retrocade. or on Twitter at TrespassedCash. Until next time, I'm Cole Feuchter, and this has been All In.